This is the story of Esther, a tale of courage, faith, and divine purpose that unfolded in ancient Persia. Imagine being placed in one of the highest positions of power during a time of great danger, all to fulfill a purpose you couldn't have foreseen. That's exactly what happened to Esther, a young Jewish woman whose bravery saved her people from destruction. Our story begins centuries ago, far from the land of Israel, in the mighty Persian Empire. The king, Ahasuerus, also known as Xerxes, ruled over an empire stretching from India to Ethiopia. But he was in search of a new queen after dismissing his former queen, Vashti, for disobedience. A search was conducted throughout the empire, and many beautiful young women were brought to the palace, including Esther. Esther was an orphan, raised by her cousin Mordecai, a devout Jew. Though she lived among the Persians, Mordecai advised Esther to keep her Jewish identity a secret while she competed to be queen. Esther was compassionate, graceful, and uncommonly wise. Among all the women, she found extraordinary favor in the sight of the king and was crowned Queen of Persia. Yet this was only the beginning of God's greater plan. Not long after her rise to the throne, a wicked man named Haman entered the scene. As chief advisor to the king, Haman was filled with pride and demanded that all bow down before him. Mordecai, devout and steadfast in his faith to God, refused to bow. This simple act of defiance enraged Haman. Not only did he target Mordecai, but he plotted to destroy all Jews in the kingdom. Haman convinced King Ahasuerus to issue a decree to annihilate the Jewish people, casting lots, or Purim, to determine the date of their destruction. This edict brought anguish to all Jews in the empire, including Mordecai, who mourned publicly at the palace gates. Learning of the decree, Esther faced an agonizing choice. She could remain silent and safe in the palace, or risk her life by approaching the king unbidden to plead for her people. In ancient Persia, no one was allowed to approach the king without being summoned. Doing so could result in death unless the king extended his golden scepter. Aware of the danger, Esther fasted and prayed for 3 days, as did the entire Jewish community. Strengthened by their prayers and trust in God's timing, Esther resolved to act with these resounding words: "If I perish, I perish." Courageously, Esther approached the king. To her relief, he welcomed her and asked her what she desired. Esther, demonstrating both wisdom and strategy, did not immediately reveal her request. Instead, she invited the king and Haman to a banquet. During the banquet, she invited them to yet another feast the next day, strategically building tension. That night, the king experienced a sleepless night and asked for the Book of Chronicles to be read to him. In doing so, he discovered that Mordecai had once saved his life from an assassination plot. The timing was extraordinary. The next day, as Haman sought approval to execute Mordecai, the king honored Mordecai instead, humiliating Haman. At the second banquet, Esther unveiled her request. She revealed her Jewish identity and exposed Haman's plan to annihilate her people. Shocked and outraged, King Ahasuerus ordered that Haman be executed on the gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. The king issued a new decree, allowing the Jews to defend themselves, turning a day of potential destruction into a day of deliverance and triumph. This miraculous turn of events is commemorated yearly by Jews around the world as the Feast of Purim. Esther's story is a reminder that God places us in specific situations for a reason. Her courage, faith, and wisdom turned the tide of history, saving her people and inspiring countless generations. Esther shows us that, even in the darkest times, we can trust in God's perfect timing and purpose. After all, we are called for such a time as this. So what do you think? Would you have the courage to stand like Esther did? Let us know in the comments below and share this story with someone who needs encouragement today. Bible, #Jesus. God, #Jews, #Christian, #Christianity. Faith.